Shalom, we're going to take a look at Bava Kama, Parak Gimel, Mishnah Gimel. For this Mishnah, we're going to see another Chiddush, and this is going to be a difference, a Chiddush in the Din, predominantly. We're also going to see a Klal, where there's a specific case, and then a more general case that someone expands to. That will be a form of Machloket. We'll see exactly how in a bit. We're also going to see a connection that relates to both the garden and also Shemitah. More on that coming up. Let's see when. So, if you want to take these notes down now, you can. You might have had them down already. Take them down later. If you want to take them down right now, it'll save you some time. You can pause the video and take them down. If you're not going to take them down right now, or if you already have, we're going to go forward. So we have המוציא את הטבנו ואת הקשו ברשות הרבים וזבלים והוזק בהם אחר חיה בנזקו וכל הקודם בהם זכה. Notice that phrase over here, כל הקודם בהם זכה. You have not seen that phrase yet, although you've seen חיה בנזקו. There's the difference already. I know there's something going on over there. It's going to be new. רבי שמעון בן גמליאל אומר, כל המקלקלים ברשות הרבים יזכו that is going to be the klal. It's going to be not disagreeing with the first line, first mikra, but saying that the first line is specific, and he's going to apply it to everything that's similar to that. So that could be a machloket, what cases would apply and what would not apply. And last we have a hofech et hakalal b'shut rabim v'huzak b'hamacher chayav b'nisko. That's going to be an extension of the Chiddush from the last Mishnah. We'll see that later. For this first section I'm going to do with you guys, we're going to look at the color-coded from based on the Sulamot of the Kamdas, the Koteret, Omer, Mikra, Din, and Tam. The Koteret, so I want you to think about that one. What a good Koteret would be. It could be that Hamotzi Tivno would be enough of a Koteret. It could be you can think of a better one on your own. I'm going to put that as a question later on in the Ed puzzle. So for the color coding, we're going to have Koteret as yellow, Omer as red, Mikra as purple, Din as green, and Tam as blue. Those are not specific. It happens to be what the Sulamot uses. Use that for consistency. Motzi et tivno bet kasho v'shut rabim v'zavalim v'huzak b'hem acher. That whole line is a Mikra. That is all what happened. We're going to see exactly what it means, but that is all what happened. It's mikra. That's obviously what happened, the result of it. This is the action, hamotzi. I can tell it's ha-motzi. The ha-motzi left in haaretz, so the same word. It takes it out. The ha means someone who's doing it. The person that does this action. This is the action they do, and this is the result. V'huzak bahen acher. That's going to be a mikra. The din is going to be they are chayav b'nisko. The other part of the din will be the kol hakodem behem zacha. We'll see what that means shortly. That's going to be the Tana Kama. I know that because I have a mikra and a din with nobody speaking. Rabbi Shimon Gamliel Omer is going to be the second Omer, and he's going to generalize this. Kol hamakal kalim b'shut rabim v'hizku. That's going to be his mikra, right? He says not just a specific case here, but anything that could apply to this would be chayev l'shalem. Chayev shalem means to pay for it. V'kol hakodem behen zacha. We'll see what that means again soon. Again, the ha, that word, the ha, the person that is hofech et hagalal b'shut rabim v'huzak behen acher is chayev b'nisko. We do not see a tam listed in the Mishnah. Again, I want to leave the koteret to you to think about for later. Let's see what this is. Hamotzi et tivno vet kasho. Someone who takes out their grain or their straw. Different types of straw, really. Different leftovers from growing grain. Take it to the Reshut Rabim. They take it to a public place. Zavalim. Zavalim is fertilizer. It is the stuff that you will put onto a garden or a farm to help them grow better. It has nutrients in it. The way you would do that is by letting it rot. We'll see that later exactly what that is. And you do that and somehow huzak bahan acher, either someone falls into it, catches fire, we'll That's actually part of the process, the scientific process of these things becoming fertilizer. It creates heat. A truck gets stuck. I don't know. Something happens. Now, I'll tell you in advance. It's not a bad thing to do to use kasha, tivno, these things for zaval, and it needs to be processed. The problem is that you're doing it in the Reshut Rabim. You should do that on your farm. You should do that in your backyard, in your chutzner, your yard. The Reshut Rabim is not the place for that. That's going to be the problem with this action, and that's why if someone is huzak b'hem acher, it's chayav in his ko. They're going to be chayav. The next step that this one adds is kol hakodem behen zacha. If you find that in the Rabim, finders keepers here. Later we're going to look about Hashavat Aveda. This is not a case of that. The Mishnah says anyone that finds it can just take it. You find this big pile of zavalim, you find this pile of kash in the Reshut Rabim, you are totally allowed to take it. You are another farmer or gardener or whatever reason you want to. You find it there, kol hakodem behem, whoever gets there first, kol hakodem, the first one that gets there, zacha, they get to keep it. That's something we've never seen before. We've always seen how you're chayav to pay for nezek. We've always seen how you're not allowed to do things that are going to cause nezek. Suddenly, if somebody else causes nezek, or does something that could cause nezek, even if there's no nezek that actually happens, anyone else that finds it can keep it. That is a chidush. We'll see why later. The last case here is if you find something, again, something to use for fertilizer, you find it in the Reshut Rabim, you pick it up, hofech means to turn it over, you look at it, like, this is something that I want, not something I want, nah, I'll leave it there. And then someone else becomes hurt by it, or whatever happens, chayav b'nizko. This is going to be a chiddush too. The reason for that is the person who's a hofech, the person who's turning it over, checking it, didn't leave it there. Right? They're not the one that put it in the Reshut Rabim, but they're the one, kind of like previously, of the contributor to it, adding water to what's already wet. By picking it up, you've removed it from the Reshut Rabim. Right? You should get rid of it. You should put it somewhere safe. Put it back. Now you're the one that put it there. The new person that put it there. It's like the new maniach for this item. So this Mishnah is going to answer now by learning it a little bit more in depth. What do hay and straw have to do with fertilizer? Why are they combining those? Why should someone be allowed to just take other people's property, even if it's left in a public place? And in that third case, who actually is the mazik and why? Again, for the first one, you can see that, and I can tell you that it has to do with it, but your first thought might be like, what does that have to do with? The Bartanura is going to explain that. Right? These are the questions the Bartanura is going to answer. Second question, why can't you just take people's property? It's the Wild West or something. Like, we have halachot of a mitzvah, Hashavat Aveda. We have mitzvot against stealing. Suddenly, I find something in a public place. I even might know who it belongs to. I'm keeping it for myself. It's a very strange halacha. It's a very strange din. So question, why would that be? Bartanur will answer that. In that third case, who in fact is the mazik? Right? Who caused that nezek? These are the questions the Bartanur is going to answer. So, you would like to take these down, these notes, for the Bartanur, as well as the questions you had. You can do that now. You don't? We'll go over it at some point, and you can take it out later. You can totally put pause and take those down. You have taken it down already, or if you're choosing to do it later, move forward. Bartanur says l'zavalim. You can find this also in your Mishnah. L'zavalim. It says sheyirkavu hateven v'hakash v'nasin zevel l'zaval sadot v'karamim. They will yirkavu rat. This is called compost. We're going to learn more about compost later in the week, exactly what it is, but it's basically taking organic matter, leftover food scraps, straw, leaves, anything that you don't have a use for that came from a plant, vegetable, something like that, and they rot. all the nutrients, the vitamins that are left inside of that plant, inside of that material, will go back and become new soil, become basically new fertilizer. It's called compost. The nasim zevel, they're made fertilizer. You can use that to make the soil better to grow new things. Instead of wasting it, you can use it, lezavel sadot v'karamim, to fertilize fields and vineyards. It's a fantastic thing to do. Again, it's just not a good thing to do in a Reshut Rabim, right? You should do that on your farm. You should do that in your field. You should do that somewhere else. So if you do that and it causes nezek, that's going to be chayav nitzko. But the Gemara says, if anybody takes them or sees that, whoever finds it first can take it. Again, this is something that's very valuable to farm society that had a lot of farms and gardens. And actually is a place in Evanston that you get free compost from, right? This is still valuable. But if you leave it in the Reshut Rabim, if you find anyone can find it, they can take it. The reason for this is the Kanseinu Rabbanan. Chazal, our rabbis, made a fine, a kanas. A kanas is a fine. Said, if you're going to put this stuff in the public place, we're going to impose a fine on you that anyone else can take it. The penalty, the consequence for doing a good thing, but in a not good place, is that whoever else that finds this thing is allowed to take it. They're allowed to keep it for themselves. You put that in the wrong spot, the consequence is anyone else can take it. The Kansinhu Rabbanan. The rabbis made this fine. There are halachot that explain why the rabbis have the authority to do this, and that is the halacha. Now, I did not actually define that one. Use it back over here to that mission. Let's see the words. Aram Gamliel, Shimon Gamliel Omer, he says anybody that puts something that can cause nezek in the Reshut Rabim is chayav b'nizko, and kol kodim behen zacha. Says it's not just tivno and kasho that's going to be chayav. Anything that can cause nezek, anything that's makalkel, will be chayav b'nizko. We kind of knew that already. That's not really the chiddush here, but kol kodim behen zacha. That anyone that takes it is going to be chayav. Now, why does he say that? Ifilu osin b'reshut. Why does it have to say that? He says even if you do it in a way that was technically permitted, right? Could be there's no law against putting it in the Reshut Rabim. You're not going to be punished for doing it, but it's irresponsible. But going mishat atzad zavalim, maybe there's a time of the year where everyone took out zavalim. If it causes nezek, again, you're always responsible for your things, even if it's done in a permissible manner, even if it's not illegal. You have to be careful with your things. You have to take responsibility for that. And if you do it in public, you're putting it somewhere that kind of sounds like anyone can take it. You're not going to put a name tag on there, right? It's Zavel. Then, kol akodim behen zakah. Anybody can take it. So in hiziku chayavim. Cause nezek for sure, you're chayav. He defines a hofek taglal. It's soat bakar. It's excrement from a cow, manure, right? Also is a really, really good fertilizer. If you do that, again, once you have touched it, you become the mazik, even though you're not the one that put it there in the first place. Once you're participating, once you're contributing, you become the mazik, or the hofek becomes the mazik. This last point needs a little bit more explanation. Somebody left something else in the Reshut Rabim. It was their thing that they did irresponsible. You pick it up, think about taking it, put it back. You decide not to, someone gets hurt by that item. Many times we say, well, I didn't make the mess. It wasn't mine. It's not my thing, so why do I have to put it there? Once you're in a situation, once you are somewhere, once you're participating, you're contributing, you're involved, it's your responsibility to make sure it goes in the right spot. Make sure it's right. Make sure it doesn't cause nezek. It's not just somebody else's responsibility just because they own it. This applies to us all the time. Anytime you see something, take the position to make it right. Take the time to make it right. We'll go over this mission a little bit more and review it, but thanks for learning, guys. See you later.